SCG Racing fins. We're going to be lowering it, and then we're going to put it on a very large weight loss plan.
Very good. So, with that amazing intro, John's going to show you that we cleaned up and cut up the wheelbarrow. Don't fall over. Alright, so as it is right now, as you saw in the previous video, we split the frame in half. So the goal at this point is to get this rear frame rail down like this. And they're going to join up right about where it is that we have it right now. We can show you how this is sitting down in. And see, we've got a little room there. Got a little room there. And we've opened up the back of it. Now we are going to have to add a wheelie bar onto this. But the back plate that was on this that I showed in the previous video was almost 5.5 pounds by itself. Yet again, we're working on racing, so we've got to lose some weight. The hood's going to be a little bit taller than what it is now. It's just there in order to mock up the front. The other thing about this that we're going to have to deal with is this front axle is going to have to come forward. But now what we're going to do is flip the two sections over and show you what the underside looks like. Because there's a lot of extra, isn't there? Yeah, these things were made rugged.
Really rugged.
Hi. We'll talk about this end first, because this is the easier of the two ends to discuss. So, as you can see right here, we've got right there where the belt is coming up through. And we've got the stock belt guards right there that we're going to have to work with, and that high-low shifter where that bolt might end up in the way. The other thing about these and why I chose this chassis is that the brake is independent for the parking brake. So we don't need this, which is at a special particular angle to make this work. So we're going to cut that off right at the parking brake because we need independent brakes anyway in order to use this. There, that certainly took off some weight. At the end of the day, unfortunately, that thing just weighs an absolute ton and there's not much I can do about it. I think the newer version that's in some of the GT Craftsman weighs less. We're going to try to get a hold of one in order to find out. Obviously, those cast iron spindles that are on the end of it and stuff like that are not helping me weight-wise. So we're going to see if we can get a hold of a newer transmission to throw into this at some point. But the real conundrum at this point is I have 10 pounds worth of goat manure to try and cram in a 5-pound bag. So I put this plate on here, which is made for fitting the 440cc. And the problem is I need about this much past there in order to even remotely hope that I can fit that engine underneath the hood. And even then, I still might have to put a lip out in order to be able to mount the hood to get it over the top. Now this is filled with tons of extra weight. And you can see all of this is like 3/8, 1/4 inch, everything. So my big debate I'm at right now is potentially just plain slicing it right about here and right about here, putting two pieces in, extending this piece out onto the two pieces, and then I can position my motor and weld this plate in wherever it needs to be. And the very last thing that I will care about at all will be the steering, because I can run that underneath everything else. I'm sure I'm going to get asked why I left that big chunk there, and the reason being is because I want to weld it in and reinforce it here, and weld it in and reinforce it here. so that all of this has a binding point, because with Diesel Eater, this bind here is part of its big problem with throwing belts when I drag race it. The other thing is this angle that we're coming in on with the belt, there is a very good chance I'm going to have to cut down into this in order to be able to get the belt through. So I wanted a really rugged piece still left there for that reason. Now, before I flip this thing over, I figured I would mock up the front here. Now, I know this is backwards, but it's not going to matter because I'm debating doing a direct steer, which means that it would actually go this direction. So I mocked it up this way on purpose. What I'm debating at this point is, originally I was debating cut it off and then weld it directly off of here back. But what I'm debating now is I slice it off back in here. We take these two here and we line up the top one with this corner and the bottom one down on the bottom piece of the rail. And then we butt weld the front and then we backside weld it and then we put a triangle in, which would make it 900 times stronger at that point. There's our front end mock-up. We've got that eyeballed in just about as good as it's going to get. I've got them tipped up just a tiny bit and tipped out. And that should do it. So we're going to get some tack welds in before a cat jumps on it or I get interrupted or something. Because getting those on there, C-clamped in and prepped took me better part of about half an hour. Going to be finishing a couple of welds. I cut this down in so that I can be able to put the grill on like this, like it is stock. So we've raised from the bar being here to the bar being here, which should get us about 2 inches lower all said and done, and still be able to hopefully fit the grill in place. Nothing on this machine is going to be painted. We're just going to rat rod it and go from there. A little bit of rust isn't going to hurt anything. Welding up the underside here on the inside pieces in order to make sure everything's all set. And I figured I'd show this one before I finished it. See, I just put a piece of rod on the inside of there and I tack welded it to either side and then I pinched that on with a C-clamp. And now I'm going back across and I'm doing a 3-run weld across it to make sure it's all set. It's not sexy, but it definitely will hold. There we go. There's the rear end that has gone on a weight loss program. And there's the front end that's been extended out. I may or may not add a few more braces in depending on how things go. So at this point, the next step is to take this and put it up on blocks so that that engine area there sits as perfectly level as possible. We've got some quibbles here in that these are 15-inch tires and the tires I plan to run are 13-inch tires. So the front's going to want to drop once we put different tires on. These are 23-inch tires. And I have everywhere from 20-inch to 22s to 23s to 25s to 27s I can potentially put on the rear. So no matter what, as we change tires, this is going to get out of level. But we're just going to set it up as close as we can for how it is right now and then go from there. You ready? You want to make it whole again?
Yes!
Okay. So what's going on, John?
Change of plans.
What did we change in the rear?
So we raised it a little bit to the factory squareness. And there's the bolt. And so now we're going to weld it together. And then add all of the motors and everything.
Excellent. So what John's getting at is that we discovered that there was a factory hole in the front of this frame rail section right here, and a factory hole right there that lined up perfectly and squared the entire frame from one end to the other. And we can't beat factory in our little tiny shop, can we?
No.
Nope. All right. So at this point, I'm going to grind right in here after I tighten those bolts up as tight as they'll go. We're going to weld that point right there, and then we'll go from there. Right?
Yep.
I just burped. Life sucks when you have burdocks in your tail and you get a sock stuck on the burdock also. Hi, Fuzz. Can I help you? Say bye-bye.